Sports Sunday live from our Channel 4 studios. Well, accepting the fate of the Twins this season should be similar to what Cub fans pretty much deal with every year. You know, they tease you for a while, such as the Twins did in early May, winning 3 out of 4 at Fenway Park in Boston, only to come home and have a miserable streak, losing 3 straight series to Baltimore. At that point, the last-place White Sox, and now the 3-game sweep at the hands of the Boston Red Sox. It took them an agonizing 6 hours, which included a 3-hour rain delay, punctuated by a Dustin Pedroia home run off the wrist of left fielder Josh Willingham to put this game in the win column for the Red Sox. So after briefly going over the 500 mark, the Twins are now 4 games under 500, back in last place, and with a rugged road trip taking them to Atlanta, Detroit, and Milwaukee over the next week. Manager Ron Gardenhire was asked by our guest tonight, Lavelle Neal, if he thought his players were pressing at the plate.
Well, you know, you can call it what you want. We're just not getting it done. Whether you call it pressing or whatever you want to call it, we're putting ourselves in good situations to drive in runs. We're just not getting the big hits. Yeah, this is where we're supposed to win ball games. Boston's playing well. We played them well at their ballpark, and we know they're a very good baseball team that can swing the bats. And they came in here and beat the ball around pretty good. But we've had our opportunities here at home, and a lot of them to drive in runs, and we didn't get it done. And you can't, you know, come home and lose like we have here. We owe it to our fans to play a little better baseball here at home. We didn't do it this trip, so we'll go on the road. Hopefully we can get our stuff together and come back playing a little better.
Yeah, that about sums it up. Lavelle Neal, who asked that question, is here in studio. Do you think they are pressing, or is it just a matter of not having enough major league caliber players in that lineup day in, day out?
Well, the second half of that question is interesting, Mark, because you look at today's lineup. They had Jamie Carroll, Joe Mauer, Justin Morneau, and then 6 guys who do not know who they are yet as an offensive player in Major League Baseball. And I think it's beginning to show. And the way this offense is going, Rob Anthony, the Twins assistant general manager, said before the game, Mauer and Morneau have been doing all the offense here, and we need some other guys to step up. Willingham's in a ridiculous slide right now. Doman needs to be more consistent. Parmalee needs to get going. Plouffe, where's this stretch of homers? The offense is not. We weren't supposed to have discussions or worries about the offense this year, but we are. And especially over this last series when they had the bases loaded 5 times in the Boston series and didn't score 1 run.
Yeah, that's crazy after they played so well at Fenway Park. And they put up a lot of, they put dents in the Green Monster during that series.
Yeah, they could have swept them in a 4-game series there.
So it's hard to figure. John Lackey started the day really with just a 1-4 record. Nothing special, but he handcuffed the Twins on 1 hit through the first 6 innings. We look at the highlights. They've really made a lot of pitchers look good lately. You mentioned Joe Mauer went 0 for 4, but he's still hitting .342.
Yep. Mauer struck out 3 times today. His strikeouts are high. I wouldn't call that a cause for alarm. I think he's at the point now where he's going to not get cheated on a swing and deal with the consequences.
But here's one of those guys. Wilkin Ramirez struck out 3 times. Again, he's one of those guys you just don't know what you have with him.
I know. You expect him to be a bench player, come in once in a while, maybe be a pinch hitter, but he doesn't have a lot of bats in the majors.
Yeah. Here's Trevor Plouffe making a throwing error, which is, and again, you have to be critical of that.
Yes, you do. He's got to make that play there. I don't know if they would have been able to turn a double play, but they had a chance at least to give it a shot, and Plouffe messed that up.
Poor Chris Parmalee got hit. Ouch on that ball. That's taken one for the team.
Well, whose team? His or his team?
I think his team.
His team of Parmalee almost took a hit there.
Well, it did. Now the 8th inning. Here's Josh. There were no one's in the stands. Josh Willingham is now hitting .197. I think you pointed out 75 at bats without a home run. I know.
He's missing pitches that he should hit, and I don't know what's going on. Sometimes he'll take pitches he needs to hit and swing at pitches he shouldn't. But there were 2 or 3 pitches he had in his at-bat today that he should have nailed, and he did not.
And then for good measures, look at this. This sums it all up. Off his wrist, almost Jose Canseco-like.
That's too bad. You know what? Yeah. Willingham's not a good outfielder. He's on this team to mash.
Right.
He's out playing left field because he has to. He means well, but the follow-through sometimes is a little short.
So 5 when you were out, how many people were left in the stands after the 3-hour delay?
I would say less than 1,500, maybe less than 1,000.
I thought like 300-400 were there. There was more than that.
Well, I was counting the players, the Twins officials, the concession workers, and beer vendors.
Yeah. David Ortiz used to play for the Twins. He's helped Boston win a couple World Series titles. He's 37. He's swinging the bat better than ever. You have to remind yourself, given the Red Sox gave him a plaque proclaiming Ortiz the greatest clutch hitter in the history of the Red Sox, they had a guy named Ted Williams that he actually played for the Twins from '97 to 2002.
How about that? And David Ortiz, man, his swing is still sharp as ever. I think he went 8 for 15 in the series, 7 RBI, 3-4 homers. Big Papi is still Big Papi. Well, it's fun to watch him bat because when he swings and misses, he almost looks like a backwards K, like for strikeout.
He does.
But when he makes contact, it's great.
Well, I know he had knee and maybe wrist problems here in 2002, but he still had 32 doubles, I think 75 RBIs. Yet they released. Well, do you remember the real story behind this thing?
The Twins needed a roster spot. And Ortiz was coming off a mediocre year. I think he was eligible for arbitration. Was going to get a raise. And they needed a roster spot. And I think they took someone in a Rule 5 draft named Josue Espada, a shortstop, who's now, I think, is an assistant coach with the Marlins.
Nice.
You know, but that's how Ortiz ended up being a free agent and signing with the Red Sox.
Yeah, that's
the rest is history.
Yeah, isn't it ever? Well, the Twins, as we all know, revamped their starting pitching staff. Kevin Correa, Mike Pelfrey, who looks real fragile after recovering from Tommy John surgery. I think the key guy, 25-year-old Vance Worley, acquired from Philly in that Ben Revere trade. He's just 1-4 with an ERA over 6. That's an improvement, but what do they need from this guy to be the #1 starter?
Well, he had some success his last outing. He gave 1 run over 6 innings, and before that, he told me he went home and kind of swore at himself for a couple hours one night, and then hit the video and just was able to look at some of his past starts, found a flaw in his mechanics, and fixed it. So he's thinking he's at a point now where he could take off and be a credible starter.
Well, he was 11-3 in 21 starts with Philly. They need this guy to be, to be close to a #1 starter. But here's the deal: after watching Hernandez today and other guys struggling, Kyle Gibson was lights out in his AAA start today for Rochester. I think he had a no-hitter for 7 innings, did he not?
He went to the 8th inning with a no-hitter, yes.
How much longer do you wait? How many more starts before they bring him up? Or are there other guys ahead of him in line right now?
I would like to see Gibson up now because I know he's got the talent to be toward the front end of the Twins rotation. But he has to be consistent. Before he had this complete game shutout, he got knocked out in the 3rd inning. Before that, he had a 9-inning complete game. Before that, knocked out in the 5th inning. So the Twins want to see him back up, go back-to-back with some of these outings.
Well, I guess you have to find out sooner than later if he can pitch at this level. Otherwise, you have Cole DeFries and Sam DeDuno. Are they getting closer to being healthy? They were both guys on the roster last year.
DeVries is healthy, and you have to remember DeVries was on the team before he had the forearm problem late in spring training. So I think he would get the call. I don't know how long Pedro Hernandez is going to be in the Twins rotation, but I'm not sure if it's a slam dunk. It'll be Gibson who will come up for him. They may give a shot to DeVries because it was his spot technically before he got injured.
Well, in the NFL and in the NBA, #1 draft picks are not only expected to play, they are often expected to star right away. Not that way in Major League Baseball. For every Bryce Harper and Strasburg, there's pretty much everyone else who is to start in the minors. It's hard to be patient, though, especially when your team. This guy, 20-year-old Miguel Sano, last year's 2nd overall pick, 19-year-old Brian Buxton as well. Let's start with Sano, who was, I think, is this Buxton?
That may be Buxton taking bat practice after signing last year.
But I mean, this kid is the real deal. I mean, Paul Mahler said he's never seen anyone that fast.
That looks like Sano's swing.
That may be a Sano, yeah. So what do you think? I mean, what do you think about Sano? I mean, how much longer do you have to wait for a kid?
Well, here's the thing. The interesting thing about this spring training, there are whispers from the Twins organization that they're willing to give Sano a look next year, which would be rushing the guy. I think he'd be 20 years old with a shot of starting at 3rd base in Major League Baseball. They just want to see him be adequate in the field. And they think his bat is almost ready now. I mean, people like Tom Kelly and Paul Mahler have seen this guy, and they're like, look at that swing. Right. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm starting to think Sano would definitely debut at some point next year.
And Buxton's just tearing it up right now. I mean, he's, and I assume he's at least 2 years away, but are you hearing, this kid is I mean, I don't know, he understands the game, understands the strike zone. Yeah. Yet you have to be patient.
He had the walk-off grand slam the other night at Cedar Rapids. I'm sure Doug McCabe can't wait to get his hands on him. That would be the next step for the kid. Right. I don't know, maybe 2 years for Buxton at least. This is just his first full season, but it's amazing the adjustments he's made since being drafted and signed. You know he's faster than Ben Revere. He is the fastest guy in the Twins organization. Amazing. And they say he was faster than Ben Revere was when he was with the Twins. Real quickly, given the way the Twins are playing right now, do you think Justin Morneau will still be on this baseball team? Do you think they might trade him before the trading deadline in July? I'm still leaning toward a trade. He's driving in runs. He's not hitting for power, which may concern some teams, but he's going to give you good at-bats. He's going to drive the ball when he can. And there's teams out there like the Texas Rangers or maybe the Toronto Blue Jays who need first base help. I'm going to talk to you about stadiums a little bit. Coming back, don't go away, Lavelle. You're not going anywhere. We're going to come back to him in a little bit. Yeah, we're talking football. But first, it's a new day at Canterbury Park. Lots of new money is injected into the sport. Everyone from the breeders on down. Canterbury race analyst Angelo Herman joins us when we come back. Stay with us. She'll just... Canterbury
Park opened again this past weekend, and it wasn't just the jockeys and the trainers who had something to be excited about. As David McCoy reports, after nearly a decade-long slump, things are looking up for Minnesota racehorse breeders.
It's hard to find a more peaceful place than a horse farm. But lately, Blue Valley Farm near Stillwater has been bustling. They breed racehorses here.
They gain almost a pound a day.
And it's foaling season.
We've had 23 babies and, yeah, a lot of sleepless nights.
The sleepless nights are nothing new for Deb Hilger, but at least now,
hi, baby.
They're not for a bad reason.
When my husband came home and said, yeah, we're going to probably have to sell, that's when we were giving out hope. That's how close it came. We were done.
For years, thoroughbred breeding in Minnesota was in sharp decline. 344 foals were born in 2005. Last year, it was 96.
It was kind of hard holding on, really, quite frankly. The purses at Canterbury were getting so low, and the competition was so steep in the surrounding states. All of those states had racinos, and so the industry kind of was leaving our state.
Now, the industry is booming.
These are the falling stalls.
According to preliminary numbers provided to WCCO by the Minnesota Racing Commission, after just 96 last year, 167 thoroughbred foals have been born in Minnesota this year, with more still on the way. The first increase in nearly a decade.
Our demand is up this year, and the reason for that is the increase in purses, hands down.
The increase comes from the tribe that runs Mystic Lake Casino, which will pump $75 million into purses at Canterbury over the next 10 years, in exchange for no longer pursuing a racino. A lot of new money to make, especially if you breed in Minnesota.
Say it's a $20,000 race, but if you're a min-bred and you win that race, you get an additional $6,000. So there's an incentive for Minnesota people to invest in a mare and foal the baby right here in their own state. All the money then stays in our state.
But horse racing and politics go together like bit and bridle. And since Canterbury only runs thoroughbreds and quarter horses, standard breds at Running Aces were left out of the deal.
We would, of course, like to have a racino up at Running Aces because that would ensure higher purses and so forth, but the purses that we have, we can live with.
We tried for 12 years. We tried to get a racino. It would never have happened. It was do or die.
Now, instead of a dying industry, thoroughbred racing, literally, has a new life.
And joining me in studio is Canterbury Park racing analyst Angelo Herman. And Angelo, thanks so much for coming down. Before we delve into your thoughts about the new racing season, tell us about your background, how you developed your love of thoroughbred racing and the track.
It's an interesting story, actually, how I did get involved in horse racing. I watched the Kentucky Derby in 1998, and I was 11 years old. At the time, I actually wasn't involved in racing at all. I was just riding horses. I used to have a pleasure horse, and I started making my picks in the paper in the morning. I would make picks for each day at Canterbury Park, and then at night I would record the races. There used to be a replay show shown every night on cable, and I would see how I did. And
it did pretty well.
It hooked me in. As soon as I could drive, I got a job at Canterbury Park. I worked there for 9 years, and here I am today.
You grew up in Apple Valley. Would you say Apple Valley?
Yes, I grew up and went to Apple Valley High School, and I lived in Burnsville my whole life.
Yeah, so you've been handicapping the races now officially ever since. How much fun is that?
Yes, it is the job of my dreams. I've wanted to do this, and I wouldn't trade places with anyone.
We saw David McCoy's story. The Mystic Lake and the Midlothian Sioux community committed $75 million, as we saw, into the purses over the next 10 years in order to come to agreement to eliminate the discussion of racino at the track. Track president Randy Sampson has called it a game changer. Do you feel that way as well?
Absolutely. It sets the stage for a new product to Canterbury overall. Because of this purse money, it's really a snowball effect. And when the horsemen get more incentive to enter horses, breed horses in the state of Minnesota, it really trickles down to everybody. When you put a better product out there on the track with more horses in the gate, then you get a little more gambling interest, and it really spreads around to everybody involved in Minnesota racing.
Well, they just mentioning the schedule. They opened their 69-day racing season, which is the longest since 2006 on Friday, which is another reflection on the extra money you guys are going to be getting.
Absolutely, and the extra interest that we've been getting from horsemen around the country. I mean, it really is a testament when you get that many applications for that many stalls and they're all full. I mean, it really is a testament to what this agreement means for the future of Minnesota racing, and I'm very excited about it.
You've gotten to know a lot of the local horse owners as well. And people are spending now up to, I think, $25,000 they're saying on a horse with the idea of actually making some money now, because it's not easy to make money when you buy a horse.
Yes, usually it's expendable income that you would put towards buying a horse, but with that much more incentive in store for Minnesota breds, you get that kind of feeling. You want to buy a Minnesota bred. It is a very exciting prospect. And just with the fact that the crop has grown so much in 1 year, I mean, down the road, it should grow by leaps and bounds and making Minnesota racing all that much more competitive.
There's some really big events, some of your favorites coming up over the summer. 6 stakes races with purses of over $100,000 or more. So this is maybe the biggest year you've ever had at Canterbury.
Yes, and the second running of the Mystic Lake Derby now has a $200,000 purse attached to it. That was the marquee event of last summer, and this summer it might be an even better edition of it. But all these stakes have gone up in purse money due to this agreement with the Shakopee, Minnewacan, and Sioux community, and it's been good in all aspects, including some of the cosmetic aspects of the track. There's a new video board both on the tote board and in the paddock. There's just improvements all around the track.
It's a win-win. It really is.
Absolutely.
Let's switch gears a little bit to talk about the big one yesterday, the Preakness. Of course, it's hard to believe our last Triple Crown winner was 1978 with Affirmed. We got teased again with Orb, but Orb didn't show up yesterday. He drew the post position, never did it. Oxbow did it with Gary Stevens, one of your favorite jockeys you mentioned.
Yes, Gary Stevens is my favorite jockey of all time. He can do such good things with a front runner like that. Oxbow was one of the only horses really to stay in front running contention for a good part of the Kentucky Derby, but horses that finished in the top 5 of the Kentucky Derby came from 12th or further back.
Well, again, is this that age-old question, how big a factor the jockey is as opposed to just going along for the ride with a great horse? I mean, Gary Stevens is that good.
Yes, yeah, and the things he can do with a front runner especially.
Right.
He got that horse, he got nobody to go with him, and that's a very difficult thing to do. Usually they'll go after a pace setter, but somehow he put him to sleep on the front end, as they'd say, and he took them wire to wire.
How badly did the horse racing world needs a triple? I can't believe it's been since 1978 with all the great horses we've had to be sort of the next Secretariat. It's not that we're going to have another one like that, but no. How important was it to have at least the opportunity to have a Triple Crown winner to people? The TV ratings have been phenomenal.
It really does add a buzz to all the tracks around the country. It's not just Belmont Park that would benefit from that. People want to see a Triple Crown winner, and that brings people out to off-track betting locations, to tracks, to Vegas, everywhere, to see if they can be a part of history and watch a Triple Crown winner come across the line for the first time in years.
How can people follow your picks at Canterbury? How can they find your picks?
They can find my picks in the pre-race show at Canterbury. I also have a Twitter handle at CBY_analyst_Ange, a lot of underscores, but I do give thoughts from the paddock, and I give my picks out if I have a strong feeling on anybody in particular throughout the day. So wherever you are betting at Canterbury, hopefully you're at the track, you will have access to my selection.
Ching, ching, take it to the bank. Angela, thank you so much for coming down tonight.
Thank you very much for having me, Mark. I appreciate it.
Well, I'd rather have you stay here, but Lavelle rejoined us to talk football. Football? Yeah, we'll ask the Bears backer while comparing the new Vikings Stadium to the renovation of Soldier Field. And what about Brian Urlacher in purple? We'll be right back. Oh, there we are. Hi. Welcome back to Sports Sunday. I'm back with my guest, Lavelle E. Neal III, as well. He also happens to be a big Chicago Bears fan, so he knows better than anyone that although it was a renovation of Soldier Field, it still looks like half a spaceship when it was completed. Very odd look at the old and the new. I want to get your initial thoughts, Lavelle, on the look of the new Vikings Stadium, which will occupy the same location, of course, as the Dome. We saw the model, big unveiling at the Guthrie Theater earlier in the week. It looks pretty amazing. Clear as the new retractable is what they're telling us.
I like it. I think they did a great job with the design. You have to understand, it's hard to make a rectangle look sexy, all right? Look at the boxes in Indianapolis. Look at the box that's in Detroit. And you look at this one, and it stands up. They made this a unique look. I love the use of glass. I'm intrigued to see how these 96-foot high panels of glass are going to move. But
yeah, you're going to be able to see the downtown skyline with them. Of course, will be connected to the Skyway.
7 levels.
7 levels. 3 levels of suites, nearly twice the size of the Dome. They're going to try to play in your favorite sport. They're trying to get MLS soccer here as well.
Well, usually MLS wants soccer-specific stadiums, so I'm trying to figure out how this one's going to work out. It's probably going to have field turf in it, maybe, or
yeah, it will.
It's got to for any chance.
Oh,
but
sure.
Usually MLS wants soccer-specific stadiums. I'm interested in seeing how that's going to work. We're trying to get a team to play in that stadium.
And one more year at the Dome, and then 2 years at TCF Stadium. As an ardent Bear fan, I want to get your thoughts on Brian Urlacher. Leslie Frazier says he's not in our plans right now. The people in Chicago I've talked to says he's broken down. What are your thoughts about his future?
Well, I thought last year he was in the shape he needed to be in because he had knee problems during the offseason, couldn't condition. Now, if he works out all this offseason, comes in better condition, he could be halfway decent. But there's rumors that he's asking for too much money, and the Vikings are going to go in a different direction. It's going to be sad to see him suit up for another team, but I don't know how much he's got left.
Yeah, it looks like he might be done.
No.
Lavelle, thanks so much for coming down, and I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
A long day at the office.
Anytime Angela's not here, I'm willing to come in and sit with you.
I think it's the other way around. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Don't go away. I want to thank our guest, Angelo Herman of Canterbury Park, and of course, Lavelle Neal, the Star Tribune, the #1 Bear apologist in town. And want to, of course, thank you for watching Rosen Sports Sunday. You're not going to get an award. We'll be back again next week following the news. Until then, good night, everyone.